Ill Nation, what's going on with you guys, man? It's Kid Truth in the building, and today, man, we're going to be talking about Lawbringer and why I feel, and a lot of people do feel, that he does need a buff, a rework of some sort, whatever you want to call it these days. I feel they're interchangeable at this point, especially given the past of these reworks. They're interchangeable. So with that being said, I'm looking at his kit completely, looking at his playstyle and his shortcomings. He has a lot of shortcomings, and that's why I do feel that he does need a rework. I don't talk about damage. You know, in this video, I really rarely don't say anything about his damage. It's more so the lack of options that he has to get to his damage, and that's the main key that I really want to emphasize before we get started here. So with that being said, if you guys do enjoy these discussion videos, these pros and cons videos, be sure to drop a like. And if you're first time seeing the channel, welcome to the channel, you guys. I want to welcome you guys like gracefully and humbly to my channel. And if you are dead ass into For Honor, or you're into just Ubisoft games in general, I'll be covering more Ubisoft games. Should have dropped that subscription if you are new. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and get to the discussion, man. Lawbringer, Law Daddy, let's get to it, man. Alright, y'all, so starting off with his neutral game, when it comes to Lawbringer in duels, he currently has little to no options to initiate combat. Like when you look at his side lights being so slow at 600 milliseconds, this leaves his only quote-unquote quick viable attack out of neutral being his top light at 500 milliseconds. But this leaves Lawbringer in a very predictable state. Like while you can attempt to throw like heavy attacks and guard breaks to throw off your opponent, this fact remains that a 600 millisecond neutral light has no place in the Lawbringer or any other hero's kit in the current meta, to be honest. But to be fair, his chain lights are 500 milliseconds, which isn't the worst in the game, especially considering that he's a hybrid / heavy hero. And this brings up his chain light finishers, which are 700 milliseconds. I really don't need to explain why this is bad for the character, but for the sake of completion, let's go ahead and get into it. Not being able to feint or cancel an attack that's 700 milliseconds that leaves you open for a max punish on parry is not only bad for the hero, it's disrespectful in all honesty, you guys. Moving right along, looking at his neutral heavy attacks, Lawbringer has 600 ms neutral side heavy and a 900 ms neutral top heavy. So contrary to popular belief, this is in line with a lot of the other heroes in the cast, but the issue comes into play when you look at his heavy chain finishers. They're unblockable, but they are extremely slow. Both his top and side heavy finishers are 1100 milliseconds. And while I'm not a fan, and I don't believe a lot of people are a fan of just speeding up attacks and calling it a rework, I have to say that having an attack this slow without key soft feint options is ludicrous. Like Kensei is a good example, really good example of a slow heavy finisher with soft feint options to give you options as a player for key mix-ups. And to add insult to injury, all of his heavy attacks lack hyper armor. So honestly, if it's anybody to have hyper armor, it would be the 6'5" dude in full plated armor screaming at Modern Inimikus. If that motherfucker screaming at Modern Inimikus, death of my enemy, he should have hyper armor. He's 6'5", he has full plated armor. Let's give Lawbringer hyper armor. I'm gonna keep this without my opinion. I'm gonna try to, but I feel he should have hyper armor on his heavies at least. So next up, let's take a look into Lawbringer's shove abilities, y'all. So starting off with neutral, his shove starts at 300 ms into a dodge, with the shove itself being 700 milliseconds, and the hyper armor for the shove activating at 100 milliseconds into the shove. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. I wrote it out pretty clear. I hope it made sense for you guys. So in comparison, Conqueror's Shield Bash has a variable startup time of 100 to 500 milliseconds into a forward dodge, with a 300 milliseconds into side dodge, with the shove itself being 500 milliseconds. And for the sake of transparency, Conqueror's Bash lacks hyper armor while Lawbringer's does have hyper armor. But the main key comparison is that Conqueror's Bash grants a free light attack where Lawbringer's does not. While Lawbringer light attack follow-up cannot be blocked, it can in fact be dodged and deflected by assassins and heroes with similar options. So with this in mind, many Lawbringer mains have attempted to use heavy attacks and guard break follow-ups to attempt to throw their opponents off, and it worked well, really well in the earlier times of the game. But as time moved forward, reactions and animation distinctions have improved on the player base. We've reached a point where it's no longer a viable mix-up at higher levels of the game. And one could truly utilize a dodge roll to nullify this mix-up entirely, but dodge rolling, in my opinion, is currently an issue with a number of mix-ups in the game, and this isn't just a Lawbringer issue in particular, so I won't really count that in this discussion, you know what I'm saying? So of course we can't talk about the shove without talking about shove on block, right? So to make it short, any block attack has the ability to grant a free shove. So this is a great way to stop chains dead in their tracks, but the issues mentioned above doesn't allow you to turn your defense into offense reliably. And this playstyle has been criticized by the community throughout the game's life for being slow paced and enabling turtle mindsets with both the Lawbringer and its opponents. So next up, let's look at Lawbringer's parry options. So currently Lawbringer has a host of options under his belt as far as parry punishes. So with the heavy parry, he could choose to go for a light riposte into a chain heavy. And when it comes to light attack parries, he has the blind justice, which is his heavy finisher that's 45 damage, and he can chain that into a shove for potential additional damage. And if the situation is correct and there's a wall nearby, you could choose to go for an impaling charge for any parry, and you can go ahead and get him to the wall, get the top heavy, and you can get the guaranteed shove into potential additional damage. And of course, that's if a wall is nearby, you get the wall splat, you know what I'm saying? So with this in mind and considering all other options in this kit, currently parrying is really the best way for Lawbringer to get damage at higher levels. So with Lawbringer's current playstyle revolving around parrying being his best bet and shove on block stopping opponents' offense altogether, Lawbringer is currently a hero that not only lacks offensive options to keep the fight fast paced, but also has the ability to slow down fights at his discretion given the opponent is actually trying to attack him. And this is the exact opposite of what we've seen with the current reworks and the new heroes thus far. They've all been given abilities to keep the fights fast paced with their mix-up intensive movesets. And to wrap things up, when it comes to a few other moves that he has, that being his long arm, you have his zone parry follow-up as well as a running impale charge. From what players have told me and for what I've seen myself, these moves are decently viable in 4v4 game mode, so there's that. Even with that being said, long arm is still pretty slow at 1000 milliseconds, but take that as you will. So in my honest opinion, I feel that Lawbringer is in a spot where he could use some form of love that these other heroes and reworks have received thus far. You can call it a rework, you can call it a buff, you can call it whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? I just feel that Lawbringer needs some form of love, and I wanted to share my thoughts in depth with you guys. This isn't a what I want to see in a Lawbringer rework, as this isn't my main. This is a why he does need some form of buff. And with that being said, the ball is completely in your court, you guys. What do you guys think about, or what would you guys like to see in a potential Lawbringer buff or rework? Go ahead, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I read them. I know I can't respond to all of the comments, but every comment that I get that isn't a reply to someone else's comment, I see on my phone. So when I come from my lunch break on work, I see all the comments, and I sit there and I read them all, you guys. Like I could be out there getting some wings or getting some food, but I sit there and I read you guys' comments, and I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to drop comments. That's why I really want to hear them, and I really like to read them. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and take off, you guys. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like. If you are new to the channel, be sure to drop that subscription. I very much so appreciate it. If you liking the content, that is, if you're digging the content, watch a couple of videos, you like what you see here, go ahead, drop that subscription. I love you guys, man. Once again, my name is Truth, and I'll catch you guys in the next video, man. Peace to the world, peace to the earth. We are out, ladies and gentlemen. Shigoki video coming soon. I have not forgot about my Shigo mains. Shigoki video coming soon, but we out, man. That's a wrap. Peace, y'all.